The parallels between politics in Brazil and politics in the United States are striking to an American. You are opposed by a coalition of billionaires, college professors, and CNN. Tell us what the opposition wants. What will Brazil look like if your opponent wins?
My election itself was almost a miracle. I had nothing going for me. I was just an isolated member of Congress. I was known as a lower segment of the National Congress in Brazil. I connected my campaign anchored only with a biblical passage, John 8:32. Ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free. The media never gave me any visibility or space. Much to the contrary, they attacked me all the time throughout the campaign. If the left wing does come back to power, in my view, they'll never leave power, and this country will follow the same path as Venezuela, Argentina, Chile, Colombia. Brazil will become one more wagon on that train. The losers will be the Brazilian population, and also the left wing itself. The left wing voters will lose as a result. All of South America will be colored red, if you understand me. And in my view, the United States will become virtually an isolated country in the world.
Welcome to Burn Babylon Burn. This is not a news show. It's an opinion show. We encourage you to do your own research. We do not give financial, legal, medical, or any kind of advice. Now enjoy the show.
Well, welcome to Burn Babylon Burn, episode 26. What we just saw there was Bolsonaro talking to Tucker Carlson about the struggle that Brazil is going to be going through, which is a struggle that you go through whenever you decide to go full-on commie and pretend that money's something that you steal from the rich and give to everyone else, rather than understanding that you can create money. And so Brazil and probably South America in general, because if I'm not mistaken, Colombia got a communist socialist leader in there recently as well. There's going to be starting to be a big spiral. And part of the problem that we're going to be facing is generally what happens in these types of situations is they give, it's like, you get one or two great steak dinners, and then the media is going to come out there and say that, this socialism thing is working great. Look, everybody's eating steak. And then within 6 months to a year, the entire thing effing collapses. It's a cycle we've seen in Venezuela, and we've seen in a lot of other areas. If I'm not mistaken, in South Korea, everybody got a microwave.
Well, it's like they start off with eating cattle steak, and then it turns into rat steak. Then it turns into their pet dog steak, and then it turns into their starved dead children steak. And yeah, that did happen in China. So yeah.
Well, I said
that can be a great leap forward. Yeah.
Oh, that's what you're referring to. Okay. Yeah. What happened in China?
Yeah. They leapt forward.
China, North Korea, Venezuela. The other way you can swing it is if it doesn't go straight on full communist style, Ukraine, Russia. If you don't go that way, then you go towards the Italians or the Nazis in Germany. You just start big wars. So that's the only thing. You have to conquer other people to get their resources, because you took away any incentive to create your own resources.
Right, and that's the thing about South America is it's a very resourceful country, or continent, really. I mean, is what I mean by that is, so Brazil's got the rainforest. Brazil's got a ton of things going for it, just like Venezuela has tons of things going for it. Venezuela also has a ton of oil, a ton of people. People mean big things, and whenever countries like this get communism, it doesn't go so well.
Yeah, and it's just mind-blowing looking at, like, for me with my business, I'm having to shift everything right now because of the way the market's going. And my profit line on the house that I'm hoping to sell is being squeezed more and more and more. And it's just because of the restrictions that are put on whenever you get just any level of, you know, democratic mentality people in there. We want to vote away rich people's money, but we don't want to work as hard. Like I've been working in a Section 8 property. There's one lady in that Section 8 property who's working her butt off. There's a younger lady that works for Burger King, and then everybody else is just sitting around. There's whenever I was working on this property, there are up to between 15 and 20 people in the property at all times. It's mental. And one person's working to do everything while everybody else is just hanging around. And it's that type of attitude. But why does that, why, you know, if you were in that situation, why would you keep working? You'd run everybody off at some point, you know. And that's what happens whenever you get communists and socialists involved. It's they expect, well, in America, for example, if it progresses the way that it's progressing at the moment, all the white people have to work their asses off. All the white men, to be specific, are working their butts off, and then the rest of the population is sitting there waiting on the crumbs to fall out, or rather waiting on the money to be taken from the people that are working hard and given to other people, given to them.
It's more sinister than that. They take everybody that has money because they've accomplished things. They print more money, devaluating all the money that those people have saved up and been responsible about, and then they give it to people based off of equity nonsense, and that is rewarding people for failure, because money really is a reward system, and that's why the mentality of people. Yeah, I really don't think anybody should be starving in the streets, even if they are a lazy loser. But at the same time, I don't think that the successful should be punished in order to hold those people up.
Exactly. And whenever you say it's basically it is full on, like, on the next level of racism. I'm part Colombian, and because I am also part Swedish, I don't look that Colombian. And so so there's just like, oh, there's a white boy over there, you know, don't sell him that property. Too many white people own property. It's like, why are you actually looking at people based upon the color of their skin? Do you want your property taken care of? Do you want good neighbors? Do you want that house fixed up or not? Like, I'm going to figure out how to get it fixed up. But then I literally am walking into situations with the business that I run where I'm getting judged based upon the color of my skin. And then I have to show them what my last name is. And then they're like, oh, okay, okay. And it's like, why does that even matter? So, but anyway, it's just really annoying, the whole mentality, because it's they say they're progressive, they say they're non-judgmental, and that's all they do. It's literally all they do.
Right. So let's get back to the matter at hand. So Bolsonaro lost his election, and well, they're saying he lost. There's a lot of question. There's 5,000 votes, or sorry, 5 million votes that were nullified, and there's probably going to be a look into the reason for those votes being nullified.
But he lost by 2 million votes, I think.
Right. But there was 5 million that were nullified. So, and apparently everyone that voted for Lula was all in the same district. He won, I think he won 4 out of the 5 districts, but I guess they do popular vote there. And the other district was a lot more in favor of Lula. This is going to be a mess. A lot of people don't really know what's going on in Brazil. I was really appreciative of that Tucker interview, because it kind of lets you know what's going on with Bolsonaro and what kind of dude he is. Some of it could be just, he's trying to look good for American media, but I see a lot of videos of crime in Brazil, and in Brazil, it's just dangerous to be normal, and that's because of their gun laws. And so people will come up and rob somebody, and it happens almost constantly. And if that person's not able to defend themselves, they end up dead. If they are able to defend themselves, which Bolsonaro was trying to let his people do, then and he did as much as he could do. A lot of these things were difficult to get. That's another section of the Tucker interview. But man, this is bad news, especially for Russia, because Brazil is one of the few allies that they have, and I'm going to assume that that Lula is not going to side with Russia. So that's a pretty bad situation for them as well. Can't call it the BRICS anymore. Maybe call it the CRIS, being like China, Russia, India, South Africa, and Saudi Arabia. Now, Saudi Arabia is the new one in the BRICS.
I'd forgotten about that. So that's going to be a really interesting development. And then also, like, a part of the support was just from a poor southern region in Brazil, which is why I mentioned the thing that I mentioned earlier about how it's really funny how the people that aren't succeeding just vote to get something, rather than and that's part of the whole democratic. For some reason, the socialists all do this. They teach you nothing in school. They basically dumb down schools, and then they get you to just vote as robots, not realizing what it is to actually create or build anything new. And that's what they are in danger of completely losing over there, is the ability to actually create and build.
Yeah, that's why I'm a democracy disrespecter. Because you can buy votes that way. You can buy votes by telling the unsuccessful that you'll take care of them, and then all of a sudden you have power. And it's kind of weird, because both of us appreciate populism, but I honestly don't really care for it. I don't think that we necessarily need what's popular. Like, what's popular is giving people things. That's the popular thing. The popular thing is that here your school is free, and now we get to make you exactly how you want to be. We want you to be. And what's popular is not always right. And what we've gotten out of this is a population that is lost. I mean, we've lost so many things out of this. People are just complete consumers, and there's fewer people that are religious at this point because of the culture that we've created from this idiocy of democracy. And by the way, the United States was not written up to be a democracy. And
it's the republic. The republic, you idiots. So, but the reason that populism can work in America, and hopefully that's an export that America has, is this idea of populism that kind of got more created under Trump and under the Tea Party, is because America was where the people fled from tyranny to go to freedom. And so that's what we're in danger of losing on a large scale right now. Because the reason that you and me can both say we back populism is because America's identity is in the people that came here were fleeing tyranny overseas, and that's why they came here. Even in Mexico, a lot of the people coming up here from Mexico illegally, they're fleeing tyranny pushed on them by the cartels.
The populism that's happening in Brazil, or that was happening until this commie put a stop to it, is that, hey, we're sick of being robbed. And the other robbery that seems to take place in South America, and why a lot of those countries, it's always hot, cold. It's an extreme right winger versus an extreme left winger. Every time there's very little middle ground. Bolsonaro was closer to to a moderate than that you're going to find in a South American country, moderate but right wing. But it's always left, right, and they're never able to progress from that, because anytime that they're too successful, a commie gets elected in, and then they're back to square one, back to eating their pets and rats and all the other nasty stuff. And I mean, they're the largest cattle. Argentina, for instance, I think is the largest cattle producer in the world. Argentina's got fewer problems than these other countries that we've mentioned before, but yeah, the whole thing with that is, you know, they put in somebody extremely left, somebody extremely right replaces them, and then whenever they get anywhere near some sort of success, to be a player on the world stage, they get knocked back by the election of a commie.
Yeah, and that's what Bolsonaro said. He was in that clip with Tucker Carlson. He said he was part of his thing that he was running on was that Bible verse that basically said the truth will set you free, and they just obfuscate the truth. They have the mainstream media run a blitzkrieg of misinformation and lies that hides the truth. I was listening to a podcast earlier on the taxes. It was a podcast from a year ago, but it was somebody talking about the taxes that Biden was pushing. And it was very interesting. Basically, the way the tax reform that Biden was trying to push, I think that tax code got knocked down. But basically, what would happen is, let's say you were a semi-successful business person and you died and you left your business to your kids. Under the tax code Biden was writing, was trying to get through, you would pay 98% of the wealth you had when you die would go to the government. I didn't realize it was that bad. 98%.
That's robbery. That's robbery.
It's 98. I literally backed it up because I thought I misheard. And
it makes it impossible to have generational wealth, and it's so that's one of those things where that's the powerful screwing with us, because the powerful know how to transfer their funds the right way. I mean, if you look at some of these people, like look at a Bill Gates or a Warren Buffett or somebody like that, and they don't have a lot of money in their own bank accounts, but they do have foundations. And so their foundations is how that they're able to control money. It doesn't matter how much money you have, it's how much money you control. And you can control that money to benefit your interests all the time. And I guarantee that whenever one of those two guys finally meets their demise, then the money is going to go to their children, unless they meet their demise in the way of the military tribunal they so deserve.
Yeah, no comment. But the well, no comment on that last one. But they were dang, you threw me off a little bit with that one. But part of it is the people that actually benefit from ending this generational wealth and ending the small businesses is big corporations, because they can, and that's what the tax guy was talking about. He's like, the tax guy was like, I guarantee that came up in a conversation. You know, Coca-Cola or, you know, Applebee's will donate to, you know, this person that writes in this heavy tax burden on, you know, a tax burden on small businesses. And then they'll just be able to buy the businesses up for pennies on the dollar and add it into the big corporation. Because most people don't take the time to actually learn these different tax laws and stuff like that. Like, for example, just a little tip, remember, this is not, you know, we're not promoting any educational things. This is just something that I'm learning. Whenever I sell this next house that I'm in the process of selling right now, we're like 2 weeks away from closing. I have to take that money and reinvest it right away, or else I'll have to pay capital gains tax. But if I reinvest it into another property, I don't pay capital gains tax. But they don't teach you that in school. It seems like it's on purpose.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they're not gonna tell you how they cheat you. It's just the whole system is kind of rigged to screw those in the middle, and that's the way I've seen it for a while.
Yeah. And so what's also fascinating about this election in Brazil is the similarities it had to President Trump's and our venal house plant, Joe Biden, uh, the election that happened there. I mean, Bolsonaro gained more voters in this election, and he still lost.
So
That's a red flag.
what that's telling me is that it's, that this is the same cabal that rules everything, and I think we're going to see things, similar situations, this time through the midterms. I think that a lot of people are like, look, the Democrats or like, what are the Democrats are running on? Your right to murder babies. That's what they're running on. They just locked you down and ruined the economy for several years, and they're running on the right to murder babies. So yeah, these psychopaths aren't really running on anything, and so they're, everybody is looking at it, and on paper they're going to lose, but in reality we're going to see a lot of these situations where the numbers don't add up, and we're going to have to deal with that legally. It's coming really, really soon. I mean, it's coming in a couple weeks.
So this is a shout out to War Room right here and Steve Bannon. In this, it's not even a couple weeks. I think it's less than 8 days or something like that.
Yeah, it's a few days from now. Yeah.
So, but we're going to see how much of an impact Steve Bannon had, and I honestly believe this. I honestly believe whatever direction these elections go in America, if it's a red wave, like it should be, I think Steve Bannon deserves to have a chapter that is taught about him in every history class in America. He deserves the credit if we succeed in this election and in the election 2 years from now in the next general election. Um, because he basically dug down into nitty gritty, stopped focusing on the biggest, largest campaign, and started focusing on getting the right people into the local campaigns to fix the elections. And I think he
You mean
woke us
solve?
up to that. Say that again.
Right. Yeah, you said fix the election. Fix can be used in different ways, but solve the problem with the elections not adding up. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree. But I definitely, yeah, that's the correct way to say it. But I think he deserves a note in
They
history
fixed
books for
it.
all the work he's
Bannon's
done.
solving it.
There we go.
Right.
But we're going. It's going to be really interesting to see what happens. It's also really interesting to see the parallels that are happening right now in Brazil with the current election they had versus the election we had 2 years ago, and I think we're going to we'll see which one of our opinions really wins out um, in this next election that we're having in about a week from now. But this is the next interesting part, and I would like you to take away on this because I was listening to one perspective, and you found a different perspective to listen to on this. What's going on with the support for Bolsonaro and rumors of judges being taken in and all sorts of other stuff like this?
Yeah, I'm hearing that some of the judges that are trying to cheat are being arrested, and I'm hearing that there is going to be a military recount. But yeah, if you guys I really don't have the best details on this. I just watched like I want to say about 5 minutes of War Room, and then he switched over to a different election and was coming back to it, and then we decided to run the show. But yeah, I would stay on top of War Room if you're trying to follow this story to the closest. I think it's going to be really big. I think we're going to hear a lot about it, and you're going to hear a lot about it from the perspective of lefty tech nerds. And from what I'm hearing as well, that we might even be censored right now because apparently YouTube is censoring and even Twitter is censoring, even though they're under new management, information that suggests that this election may have been stolen. So
I'd be very surprised if Twitter was censoring stuff like that. But that's just a side note. But what? I mean,
it's a big story.
The interesting thing for me is it's there's a distinction. Well, first off, do you know if like in America, like you lose an election, but you're still in office for another 2 months? Is that the way it works over in Brazil? Do you know, or is it like that night you're out of office and the other guy comes in?
I'm not sure, but I'm sure it works that way. That there's an inauguration day and all the other stuff. Like I said, I don't know a whole ton about Brazilian politics. I've just seen the Bolsonaro interviews and kind of recognized that South American countries are subject to this extreme left, extreme right over and over again, and that's one of the reasons why they're never getting up off the ground.
Yeah, they just keep on pummeling themselves. You gain money, and like, what happens if you gain money and then a new election comes by and all your hard work, all of a sudden, all that money gets taken away? I mean, that's mental.
Yeah, this is how a lot of countries are treated, especially over in Africa. There's a lot of countries going through the same kind of situation where they're extremely resourceful. They have everything you could possibly need to grow and produce and everything like that, but their government is always oppressive, and there's a certain alphabet agency that really likes to meddle in the elections of other countries. I know that we're always saying that people are meddling in ours. We're not saying that, but the media seems to think that. But the United States meddles in a lot of elections, and that's why one of the reasons why the United States has remained so powerful.
Well, and that's the interesting thing. That this is just a slightly side note. This is the interesting thing about the difference between Israel and African countries. Israel's in a desert. African countries, a lot of them are in deserts. Israel does not get food subsidies. African country gets food subsidies.
They get billions of dollars every single year from the United States. They're still getting reparations from Germany. They're getting money from all over the place. Like you just omit that stuff whenever you want to kiss the butt of those people. You always omit the fact that they're stealing land. They've been stealing land for decades.
That's not the point I'm making. The point I'm making is that whenever you give, I'm talking about this from a business perspective, because it doesn't change this fact. Israel produces their own food. African countries that are in these bad situations where people are starving to death get food donated to them by the Red Cross. What happens whenever you go into a country and just give a country food is you undercut the entrepreneurs and the farmers' ability to create the infrastructure to produce that food.
You're right. I understand.
Giving food to a country, it destroys the incentive of anybody to build that infrastructure.
Right.
Well, yeah, teach a man to build a farm. That is why it is better. It is better to give somebody a loan and say, go figure out how to build that farm, than it is to just give somebody enough food to last them a week, which we're going to see in Brazil. like that was a comment that I heard on a shout out to Academic Agent as well. That's the comment that I heard on Academic Agent. One guy that was, his family's from Brazil. He was just like, Yeah, a lot of these people that voted for this commie guy, they just remembered having a steak dinner once that the government provided for them, and so they were just like, "Oh, that steak dinner was nice. I'm going to go for the vote for this guy again."
Right. Okay. Well, let's move on. A certain guy in San Francisco, apparently has gotten hammered again.
Again, it's far more likely. It's San Francisco. Odds are that it's a crazy fucking person who just broke into the house, because that's on par for San Francisco. But then you got to explain to me some of the wonkiness if it's just a rando breaking into the house. Like this over here, where now we've got police dispatch, and they're telling everybody, well, looks like David was described as a friend in the Pelosi house call. So the 911 phone call wasn't, holy carp, a lunatic broke into my house and he's trying to kill me and my wife and overthrow the government. The phone call was, hey, my friend over here is having an episode. Do you want to come down there? And so the police initial response to this was a wellness check. Somebody broke in to the House Speaker's abode, tried to kill everybody, and you use that, oh yeah, no, my friend's having an episode. That's not how any of this works. They're trying to say, the mainstream media press is trying to spin it like, this is code. It's code. Paul Pelosi used code. Not likely. Not likely. During the police press conference, we catch a hot mic from a journalist calling his boss. He goes, is this the nudist that everyone's... Yeah, that's the nudist. Well, should we tell everybody it's the nudist? No. Don't tell anybody it's the nudist. They're keeping information from people. Again, you're telling me that this, again, was yet another attempt on Nancy Pelosi's life, and the dude was a known nudist. He was a known Castro supporter. He's a known homeless vagrant in Berkeley. None of this is screaming MAGA, MAGA, MAGA. And so the FBI, they head down to the last known place that this dude was hanging out at, and they're like, let's do some investigating. Let's go get all of them MAGA hats. Boom, blows up right in their face. Look at this. FBI visits at Berkeley home tied to Pelosi's beating suspect. The Victorian is dubbed Hippie Collective by the neighbors, and it's got a rainbow American weed flag out in front of it. Clearly the sign of rampant Donald Trump supporting insurrectionist terrorists who try to constantly kill the gays, peoples, and the trans peoples. Oh wait, no. That's the complete... I mean, how much more do you need to know that this is a flaming leftist? He's a known nudist, a pro-Castro individual. He's at a Berkeley hippie committee collective over here with rainbow flags in front of it. He's probably a male prostitute. He was probably called to the Pelosi house. This is why you won't get the security. They're saying, oh, there's no security camera footage. There's no security camera footage? Does Nancy Pelosi protect her house as well as she protects the Capitol? There's no security camera footage? Well, it's San Francisco. All of the cops have body cameras on them. The cars have dash cams on them. We're not going to get any of that footage. You're not going to get any of the home security footage. You're not going to get any footage. Because the dude was let into the house. This was a drug deal. This was a sex op. Something was going on. It didn't go in the way that the dude thought it was going to go, and he tried to probably break his way out of the house. I think this was an Ed Buck situation where Paul Pelosi was probably trying to overdose him, and the dude knew what was going on.
Salty cracker. Hilarious. Dude, he's the best. I love his sarcasm. And, 10 minutes a day, you get the main story and all the hilarity that ensues. He's great. I really appreciate his channel, and so I'm going to highly recommend it to our viewers, listeners.
Do you think this nudist could tell the difference between Castro and Justin Trudeau?
Well, it's very difficult. They have a familiar resemblance, but yeah.
This is my conspiracy hat type thing. So, because it's so funny watching the people coming out and just being like, there's rational explanations for why the glass broke in this way and this other stuff. And it's still a weird, hefty story. This guy turned up in his underwear and was attacking Paul Pelosi. And And first off, just one random side note. Paul Pelosi and Nancy Pelosi do not look like a matched couple. There's a very weird discrepancy. Like Nancy Pelosi aged very poorly or something's up there. I'd never seen a photo of Paul Pelosi, and I was just like looking at it, I was just like, that's one of those weird couples where you just look at them and just like, those people are together? Really?
Well, they're together in insider trading.
Yeah, exactly.
I figure both of them are kind of open with their thing, and and hire people to take care of their needs, and those poor people are paid extremely well, and those people have to spend a lot of time and effort getting the sulfur smell off of their parts.
I was just like, first off, we've got a story. We don't at the moment. We don't know whether it was one hammer or two hammers.
It's two hammers from what I've collected.
From what I've collected, it's now confirmed that it's just one hammer. It's confirmed that both of them were there in their underwear. The other one that's it's currently now up in the air whether or not a third person opened the door for the police or to let the guy in. That's the two different things. Somebody let the guy in, it's staff or something, and then I'm hearing that that's not true either. It's just really confusing. The entire story makes no sense.
It's amusing how much this story has changed over and over. So it kind of gives you the idea that there's something more going on to it. And then there's also so you think that there's definitely more going on to this, but then the president comes out and makes a speech about the political divide and how, it's us, the insurrectionists and the virus deniers and all the other people that are the ones going after Nancy. Nope. It was a gay prostitute that was servicing her husband. So,
gay. It's either that or like apparently he was walked in and on the View and other areas like that. They were like, oh yeah, just like on January 6th, they were screaming, "Where's Nancy? Where's Nancy? Where's Nancy?" It has to be a Republican. It has to be a right winger. It's like, I've never met a right winger who was the best man at a nudist wedding. I'm just saying.
Probably not.
But I'm pretty sure.
I mean, it's possible for the reason that a lot of people have come from the left to the right over the last couple of years with the virus nonsense. So there's people that have completely changed their lives after they put everything in their face and said, "Hey, you can't work anymore." So
I wonder how often people from Trojan go to nudist weddings just to see what the percentage of the population needs a little bit of a lift.
You mean Viagra?
Well, I
Trojan's a condom.
It was gonna be a good joke. I just didn't get the reference because I don't have those issues.
So, friend of the show, Rob from Black Labs podcast, has gathered some information. He's been sending me about this, and there apparently is a Masonic ritual involving hammers and loincloths. So
it
could, yeah. And that is why we love Rob. So I would like to hear more on this. And then the humiliation rituals of the Masons is another interesting bit. So it could have something to do with that. But we'll see. A bunch of crazy people on the internet are on the case. So we'll find out. We will know.
What should we call this new thing? We're not going to go with QAnon again, but we need a new little thing here. Did you mean hit that button?
Yeah, I did. We're going to close it out.
Okay.
I'm fading up the music. Okay. All right, y'all. Thank you for listening. Thanks for tuning in. Please go check out my other show, The Doom Kitchen. I just had Phytophiliac on, and she was amazing. And unfortunately, unless I have the actual artist with me, we're not going to close the show with music anymore. Just complications and money we don't have if that turns into some kind of legal situation. And I don't think it will based off of who we played before, but it's possible, so I don't want to deal with that. Anyway, hope you enjoyed the show, and we'll catch you next time.